Okay. So, is it necessary to wait?
Have the public hearing?
I'm here. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Design Review Board meeting for July 2nd. Staff will present the projects, the applications that will be reviewed. Board will discuss, and then there will be public comment. During public comment, all questions and statements from the public should be directed to the chair. If you wish to speak, raise your hand. The chair will recognize you. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. In order to allow an opportunity for everyone who wishes to address the board, speakers should limit their comments to the agenda item or application being discussed. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes in order to have everyone be able to ask questions. So, staff, will you present the first? Oh, yes, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from
I make a motion to approve the minutes for the special call work session, which included a site visit, another work session, and a regular meeting on June 4th, 2024.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Or a second. Second, thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand. I did not attend, so I will abstain. So, old business.
Item A under old business, application number CERD 24-001073. Applicant Melody Binion of Designer Builders, Inc. is requesting approval to construct a single-family home and connect it to an existing single-family home via a breezeway at 616 Park Avenue Southeast. Tax map parcel 121-06-14-013. The applicant is requesting approval to construct a new single-family home addition, 4-car garage, carport, and breezeway, as indicated in the application. The proposed new carport and breezeway will connect from the rear left corner of the new garage to the original single-family home on the property, converting the structures into a duplex. The proposed new home addition will be a 2-story brick building with a total of 4,711 heated square feet. The main roof will consist of architectural shingles in Owings Corning Estate Gray, while the shed's roofs will be jet metals in the color iron ore. The 2 dormers on the front facade will have fiber cement board and batten siding, painted Sherwin-Williams pure white. The proposed brick is Meridian Brick Old Bailey. The proposed double-hung windows are black with full divided lights. The grid patterns will reflect those submitted in the elevations. This property is located in the Old Aiken Overlay District and is zoned downtown business. As the applicant is proposing to construct a new single-family home that would connect to an existing single-family home, this would be considered a duplex, which is permitted in the downtown business zone. While the applicant did debate separating the 2 homes at the May 7th, 2024 DRB meeting, they have ultimately decided to propose a duplex. The construction date of the existing structure is listed as circa early 20th century on the Aiken Historic Survey card. The Aiken County Assessor's website lists the construction date as 1918. The applicant has submitted an amended application based on discussions from the April 2nd and May 7th DRB meetings. The updated drawings may be seen in Exhibit A. The old drawings may be seen in Exhibits I and J. On the updated front and rear elevations, the applicant has added more board and batten siding. On the updated left elevation, the applicant has added a gable over the carport and altered the proposed garage door style. The new proposed garage doors attempt to replicate a stable door. The applicant has also replaced the brick siding on this facade with board and batten. Additionally, the applicant has submitted photos of various properties in Aiken that are similar to their proposal in style and massing to portray their efforts to conform with other homes in Aiken. And I believe LaDonna Armstrong is here to represent the applicant.
LaDonna Armstrong, 139 Greenville Street, Northwest. So we have returned with some changes that we have made. Bring up the new front elevation. The major ones being to the left elevation, we added different garage doors to give it more of a stable feel, which is in kind to some of the other properties in the downtown area. Added an overhang and some columns to bring in some of the elements of the cottage that is on the existing property, and then added a gable to break up the roof and to kind of create balance between the two buildings. And then on the front, added the board and batten to break up some of the brick as well. I know in the work session, the roof that we just recently were in, the roof was mentioned as it was in the past. This is the style of this type of architecture, to have a roof like this. It is a 2-story building, but it looks like a story and a half, which that type of architecture lends itself to more roof, but then you have less walls, the wall height and everything, which kind of keeps it what they were going for in the entryway, a more inviting front porch area oriented to Horry Street, to be in line with the other houses in the area. In the guidelines, there is, it's a tricky lot because it's a corner lot in a tricky area right between two districts. It's on the line of the historic district and the old Aiken overlay. And this picture in particular that talks about what's relating to the area, I took into a lot of consideration. In the packet that you have, the map that is Exhibit A, Appendix C, this one here. Mm-hmm. If you look right across the street, there is 2 houses that mimic what we're asking for. One across Park Avenue exactly, with a garage on the front facing street. It's a corner lot. We know that we have to consider 2 sides as front facing. However, in the guidelines, there is no declaration for these corner lots. Because it's also a commercial area down the way. This is another reason why we went more of a stable look for the side, so it wasn't as commercial looking, so it was a transition more into a residential area. And I really do believe that what we're asking for on this application is to be considered unique for its site, and doesn't set a precedent for future applications. So I can answer any questions that you have.
Are there any plans to renovate the existing?
The cottage inside, Katie Lipscomb did a very nice job with. The one thing that they have considered is adding board and batten to the exterior to tie it in as well. With the application and with the original design and the changes that we've made in trying to get the home that the owner desires built, there's been already some cost increase. And so as far as when that will happen, there's also a pool that will be in a future application that they would like to consider. It will most likely come up because they would like their property to be so that it's all coherent. So that is one thing that they have discussed. And we did add the metal roof to the garage side in liking with what the metal roof is there now on the existing cottage.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, you kind of raised an interesting point, so I kind of wanted to ask you a little further questions about that. Currently, the 1918, is it 1918 or 1908, house doesn't have board and batten on it. And I was going to ask you how a lap siding house related to the addition of the board and batten on the new structure.
Yes, they would like to add board and batten to that property. Keep the shingles up in the gable end. Those are good, but some of the board and batten isn't in the best shape.
Is there board and batten on the existing?
Not board and batten, the lap siding, I'm sorry.
So
And the colors.
our guidelines to change out the siding on a historical home, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm sorry?
To change out the siding style on an existing historical home, would that be against our guidelines?
It wouldn't be against, we'd have to come to you for approval.
What I'm saying, the guidelines don't recommend changing out the siding, is my point.
It looks like it may be vinyl siding.
They don't recommend changing out the siding?
I wouldn't think so.
Not if it's
Not to a
original.
different style. Talking about changing the style,
Of the siding,
right?
okay.
If it's, only if it's original to the house.
The siding's not original to the house.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm confused of what you're saying.
I'm just saying the cottage currently has a lap siding style,
Yes.
and to change it out to a board and batten style would not be in keeping with the way the house currently stands.
I'm not sure, but it's not original to the house.
So you're saying originally it had board and batten?
I'm not sure, I'd have to research that.
Okay. I would be surprised based on the design of the house. But you know, we'll have to research it, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? We'll go to, are there any comments from the public? Yes? Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Linda Johnson, 515 Parkside Drive. On behalf of the board of the Historic Aiken Foundation, I want to express continuing concerns regarding the proposed new house at 616 Park. The latest proposal presents the home as an addition to the existing bungalow. This addition does not follow the applicable guidelines per the Secretary of Interior standards, which are cited in the Aiken guidelines. New additions shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features of the original property. In addition, we have 5.1.13, which talks about additions and says that they should respect the character and integrity of the original building, and a French Tudor style doesn't really do that. Further, Section 5.1.13-2 says the design of the addition should be compatible with the existing structure and its context, and it lists some really specific things below that. That visible garage additions should be avoided, that the scale and proportion of an addition should be planned so the old building is not overpowered, that the height and width of an addition shouldn't be greater than the old building, the massing and shape of the old building, including the roof type and pitch, should be respected in the addition, and the materials and details should complement the old building. And these guidelines aren't followed in this design. The French Tudor doesn't really relate to the existing building in size, scale, and proportion. And the roof design is particularly problematic. It's inconsistent with the old bungalow. The roof is too high, it has too many gables. All the windows should be of the same style. Materials on the front facade should be the same between the two buildings. the current proposed plan doesn't really meet these requirements. In addition, there's an analysis in there about other large buildings in the Aiken area, and there's a long list. All but 2 of those buildings are in a different overlay district. They're in the Winter Colony District. Only 2 are in the Old Aiken overlay. And it's very important to understand that there is a historical distinction between the 2. The cut was a dividing line. South of the cut, you had the more elaborate homes owned by winter colonists or rented by them. North of the cut was for the local people who worked in the area. And you had more modest homes there, like you find, in that block already. So Historic Aiken Foundation wants to be on record that we don't think the design as proposed meets the guidelines. Thank you.
Yes. The person behind you.
Good evening. Louis Rinaldini, 638 Magnolia Street. I look at this project and I'm disappointed or, concerned, upset, because it seems like the applicant and the board are talking past each other, not by any fault of any of the parties, but because it's a challenge to do what the applicant wants to do. And I think the board is also being constrained a little bit too much by, this injunction not to give guidance. This is a case where some expert advice for both sides would have been good. I mean, this project has some serious problems of not meeting guidelines. And on the other hand, it's a new house. The guidelines do give flexibility for the new house. It's not unlimited flexibility. And turning to experts who have been through this would have been helpful, I think, for both sides. I think citing guidelines early on for the applicant and being clear. I mean, if you look at, for example, some of the things that this house does not meet in terms of the guidelines. The style and massing, I think it's pretty clear, is not something that is quickly approvable under any guidelines that I can read or that anybody that looks at it with a preservation-minded view can read. It's not compatible with the existing building. It's not compatible with the neighborhood. The garages facing Park Avenue are a serious problem. And, for example, small things like black windows are not consistent in this neighborhood. So when you look at the totality of that, there's some issues, but you can cite specific guidelines, so you can give guidance quickly on that. Now, what do you need to do when that happens? Guidelines, especially in this case where it's a new building, provide flexibility, which is a benefit for the applicant. But when the guidelines aren't met, there's a burden on the applicant to show, we tried to put the driveway on the upper side of the lot and it just didn't work, and here's the drawing that we did, and this is, I can show you why that doesn't work. Okay, then that would give me as a board a reason that I could cite in my approval to approve the garages on Park Avenue, and then I could turn to the applicant and say, well, look, we understand why you can't do that. For example, the house on Union Street that we saw in the work session, right? The driveway is already there, okay? So when you put the carport there, it wouldn't meet the treated as a front facade kind of guideline. But there's an extenuating circumstance. You'd either have to put it on one side or the other, and it's already there, so okay, there's an extenuating circumstance for that. In this case, there is not that extenuating circumstance. So the whole design probably should have started with the driveway in the right location for the guidelines, okay? Now, if I'm an owner, I should be able to come to you and say, hey, the one thing I can't do is put my driveway there, but then I can't ask for 10 other things, right? The flexibility is not unlimited. And that dialogue, I think, should be clear, it should be strong, it should be forthcoming, and you should be empowered to give that so that people don't have to come back 5 times. Okay, because in my view, this project's not approvable as it stands. But, you know, we have experts on the law as to what and how this process can be done. So if we're concerned that the board could give too much guidance, we've offered many times to have a discussion about DRB procedures, and I think you should have a discussion about DRB procedures and get into that. We can bring you experts on the law. You know, there's a fellow in Charleston who's, you know, advisor to the National Trust for Historic Preservation. He's the lawyer in South Carolina that they call for these issues. He does this with boards. He does legal reviews with boards as to how to handle your duties. We also have experts, you know, like Randy Wilson, who can opine on the process that a DRB follows, but they can also opine on specific projects. This was a complicated project. I would have brought Randy Wilson in to at least give the board some views and give the applicant some views as to how this should work. And I think
I'm sorry, your
that
time
would,
is up.
sorry, that would make it much better for everybody to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. You wanted to come up? Mm-hmm.
Todd Gall, designer builders, 935 Doherty Road, and we have been presenting this for this our 3rd month. But we appreciate the opportunity. Obviously, we have listened to each session that we've been to in each work session and made changes that were suggestions or ideas and brought them back, and Rebecca's been helpful in putting all of this stuff together. There were some comments in the work session about the roof pitch and things. We did, as was noted earlier, we did make changes to the left side, continuing with the color or the style and stuff of the cottage, and also of the heart of Aiken, and driving around, working and thinking about this for the last few months. You know, I've seen a tremendous amount of things up and down Park, Highland Park, Calumet Landing, and all that stuff, and just, it feels, you know, that's why we all love Aiken. Even exposing the rafter tails to go along with the porch, the column sizes, and bringing that together. And it is a falling down vinyl siding. You know, maybe you guys didn't know what that was, and you know that has been a consideration. Maybe it stays at a horizontal siding, but it was requested and suggested the board and batten on this early on, so that's why it's there. And there was just to, Rebecca, is there a way to come up with, you know, we talked about the steepness of the roof pitch on Exhibit A, page 11, is that, can you pull that up?
So this is Exhibit A, page 11. What are you asking for specific?
Been here in Aiken building for 35 years. That's not steep. It's actually a 912. One of the intentions, though, for the sides on the front elevations to increase the pitch a little bit left and right was to get a ridge so it doesn't all come to a point, you know, and so that wasn't just haphazardly put together. I mean, there's been a lot of passion in it for the owners, and you know, and putting this together with a lot of your input and going out and do that stuff. So there was a reason for that, especially that front porch and the center area. If that was maybe a 12, now it's a peak. So we drew it that way. We messed around with it and tried to massage it and do what we felt was best. But I don't know if you guys had any questions for me. I'm more than happy to answer. I just, you know, we've kind of beat this, and we would love to get a building permit. So that's what we're trying to do. And if there was input, we've listened every single time. And, you know, we didn't come here with a total, without listening to anything and just put it back on you and stuff like that. There was definitely some work together at it. We felt like, and we're listening. Y'all have any questions for me that I can answer?
You know that the decision was yours to make it an addition versus a new building. So the guidelines that we've been talking about are the decision that you all made to make it an addition versus a new building. So all the things that guide us from objective standards that we have to look at, which is what we're required to do,
Yeah.
is under the overlay requirements as to additions, so that most of what you've heard about size, scale, massing, all that stuff, because it's an addition, the cottage itself is the starting point.
Yeah. Well, I understand that, but
That's all I'm just,
earlier is, it would be helpful if there's a different word that you want us to use. We're looking for your help, not for, a wall. We're looking for to work together on things.
well, that's what we.
Yeah,
have
so
to
if
do, I
we,
think,
if we
from the
today
beginning.
said we need to call it a new construction with a house next to it, I don't know that, I'm not a,
That
politically-
was one of the original meetings, because that was my concern, duplex addition versus new building. And we got that resolved fairly early, because I said, it's your choice, because there are consequences to what you chose, which is okay. But that's what I look for
Yeah.
in the project, so I wanted to make sure you as the builder and the owners and everyone understood that because there was a choice, and it went through staff notes, Rebecca's trying to help,
Yeah,
and that the guidelines, I'm sure she would have given you guidelines, and LaDonna's looked at guidelines, and there are guidelines that we have to follow, objective standards that deal with additions versus new build. And that I just
yeah,
wanted that
yeah,
record
I would
to
obviously
reflect.
hope that you would be helpful if there is something that we're standing here doing something incorrectly. Say, hey, this would go better, and if it was changed in a different application. I mean, I don't know all those, but I would, in anything, it would be nice if there was something like that, so.
Even if it was a new construction that wasn't considered an addition, the guidelines still state that it needs to be compatible
Right.
with the context and with, of course, the building that's on site. And we keep on coming back to that issue, which is, that this design is not compatible with the
Well,
with the neighborhood.
we feel differently, obviously, and that's why we're asking for y'all to.
And, I can point out some specific style issues that make it not compatible. It's the slope of the roof, the pitch of that gabled roof in the center that makes it look like a chateau. That is a very unusual shaped roof, the centered roof. The curves at the edge of all the other gables, that's a style choice that you don't see in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I understand. Those that wasn't on the first one, and it wasn't then brought up to the second one that it wasn't. We put it on there, and it was said, yeah, that looks better. So that center gable wasn't on the original one. So it's.
Well, I'm talking about the sloped roof behind the center gable, behind the dormer. I'm talking about the whole massing of the roof,
The 912.
volume of the, yeah.
Yep.
So it's, we keep on saying farmhouse, something that's more simplistic, that,
Yeah.
and that's
I guess
what we're
there's not
not.
a whole lot of farmhouses down there. Very,
But to give
that's a
you
new
an
thing.
idea,
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. You have to come to the podium
Thank
so
you.
we can record your question.
I would like to make one comment, if I could, Madam Chairman.
Sure.
Todd, or any person here tonight, the starting point is the cottage. It is historic. And both sides, Randy Wilson that Mr. Renandini mentioned said, you look to the left, you look to the right. We want, it's got to be compatible. The words that have been used are not secret, and we're not trying to gotcha anybody. I'm just trying to say that the cottage is the starting point. It's historic, and so is the historic one right to the other side. And that's where there's a compatibility issue for, I think, that we're trying to relate to y'all for the dilemma we're all facing.
Thank you.
I'm Bernice Miller. I live at 734 Park Avenue Southeast. That White House that's on South Boundary has a huge roof, and it's got a carport, and it's pitched, and our neighbors across the railroad track have that orange roof. That's a huge house, and the one right next to it, our neighbors, that's a huge house. They both are huge. They're as much almost, if not more, than our square footage. So I don't really get it. I'm sorry. I just don't think that there's not room for exceptions. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, just to address a few things. Would there be any difference between whether it's attached or not attached in your determination?
Oh,
I'm asking.
we need your name and address.
LaDonna Armstrong, 139 Greenville Street, Northwest.
Thank you. Yes.
So, I would like to speak on that matter. We could only go by the determination of the application. So, as I'm only one vote, but whatever I see is that's what I can go by. And this is we try to partner with individuals to see their projects succeed, to see their projects come to fruition, into fruition. But at the same time, I feel as if even though we have an architect, I'm a builder, I don't design, I'm bound to the guidelines and to remain fair and impartial.
Yes, but there's room in the guidelines to evaluate each project individually. And I feel like some of the words are being looked at so strongly and not the whole sentence. Even when Linda Johnson came up here and quoted some of the guidelines, some of the sentences were left out. And it's always to evaluate each project and that you want to see the success of the next person coming into the property. Now, I do understand some of the concerns, but I wouldn't be up here defending them if I didn't think, and I wouldn't have prepared all the paperwork if I didn't think there was some exceptions here. Lewis brought up the driveway. There is a driveway cut right now on Park Avenue side to where the carport is. There is a gate, there is a driveway cut there. It was used as a driveway. And so we're not asking that much difference. Yes, we did take into account it as to where things should be located. It is a corner lot. It's very difficult. Yes, if you look at the house that's on the property and the one right there, it's different. However, one more property over, you have the Salvation Army, and across the street, you have 2-story Charleston-style homes that were not fitting, that were built in 2006, were not fitting into that area whatsoever. And one of the owners own one of those houses now. And so they purchased this property because it was going to be used as a railroad cart storage. So as a means to try to have an investment of their area that they've tried to decide. There are some things that maybe could be relooked at, which is why we've come back multiple times. Why it's not unusual to see this type of house in Aiken. There are many others in Aiken. And there's nowhere in the guidelines that say that they have to have a specific style of architecture. So.
Okay, I want you to get your thoughts out. Are you finished?
Well, with that, but I would like to go back to the attached versus detached at some point.
Okay, all right.
Because I would like some type of clarification on that.
You expressed a lot of stuff, and I'm going to tell you what I picked up, okay?
Okay.
So let's talk about 2006, right? I wasn't on this board 2006. I could only go by today.
I
and,
understand.
and being fair and impartial for today. I cannot respond to something in 2006. I wish I could, but in 2006, I was in high school, ma'am. All right. Back to what based on my interpretation. You spoke of interpretation, right? Each board member has an interpretation of the guidelines, whether from our chosen occupation or our expressive backgrounds, correct?
And I appreciate that.
All right. So I explicitly remember the previous meeting, I took a stance and I said that the house, the cottage, the focal point should be the mother of the French mansion or the French bigger house, right? I looked at the elevations on page 13 in my documentation. Is it 13? I stand corrected. It's actually page 14. And as a builder, if I were to build a house, I would say that the house did not change style at all, minutely. The thing that changed may be the roof pitch, but it appears to be pretty much from the front elevation, June submittal, really close to the same house. Now, if you speak on the opposite side with the garage and the changes that are made, that is a totally separate issue, ma'am. But as my interpretation here tonight, it's practically the same house with minute changes. But once again, as I stated, Ms. Armstrong, it's my interpretation. I'm just one vote, and that's just pretty much it.
We did take it as that side was the most important with the cottage, and that's why we did make the changes there to relate back to the cottage. And we did take quite a bit of time in thinking how that could assist and how the rhythm of the columns and the openings, those would relate to each other.
So, as Mr. Lott stated, even we can I can get in the weeds and say the coloration. I can get in the weeds and say the board and batten siding, which is Iran. You have your hardy sheets with your bats versus a more lap type siding on the cottage. You got shingles on the side of the cottage and the gables. I didn't see that present on the addition. Once again, I'm where I was in May. That's on record. It still reminds me of a French Chateau Elan type house.
So are you saying that won't be allowed?
I did not say that won't be allowed, but what I am saying is that I feel it is not compatible. So let's keep the words straight.
So it is the style of architecture you're saying is not compatible.
My interpretation of, once again, the cottage, and this is the most plain folks way I can say it that I understood it, is the cottage birthing the actual new construction addition. It does not seem compatible. And that, once again, that's just my interpretation. That's just my interpretation, and I'm quite sure on record I stated that in May. Did I or did I not, Mr. Lott?
You did it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Faith,
Any others? Yes?
is my mic on? Yeah, I remember the last meeting very well. I remember both Ahmad and myself at the very end of it said what we wanted to do more than anything else was to be able to help you find a way to get this done. And we also talked at length about the style of the house, the massing of the house. And last time it came in as a new building, from what I understand. So, but it was not a duplex. And as a duplex and as an addition, the guidelines are very clear. And I remember clearly saying last time that as much as we want to be able to see you be successful, and I do, I really do, we are bound by these guidelines. And it's very clear. If you look under 1.113, that I know that Rebecca gave you that, the very first paragraph, the second paragraph said, The board's primary concern will be the impact of the design change on the existing residents. Such additions should not dominate or clash with the old buildings nearby. The board will not normally approve plans for an addition unless all of these following 3 criteria are met, which Historic Agent spoke to, Ahmad has spoken about, Ms. Morgan has spoken about. And so I think we've been very clear from the beginning, and I remember saying, and I still feel that this time, I agree with Ahmad in the sense that I don't see that much of a difference, unfortunately, either. And it's very clear, we've been saying this all along, that it just can't dominate the original existence of the original cottage to the degree that it is. And as far as the French Tudor style, there may be other houses around Aiken that have that. I don't believe that that is existent in that neighborhood. And if you go back to Randy Wilson, who is the one that is, I would say, he's a huge expert. Everybody goes to him. If you listen to what he has to say in his, in the kind of seminars that he gives, he talks about context within a certain area. And he said, you can look to the left and look to the right. We've said that before. You can go across the street. You can go maybe a block away. But context, you can't bring context in when it's literally 2 blocks away or 5 blocks away, or it exists throughout Aiken. It doesn't exist there. And that's very important. But we are bound, I said it last time, everybody has said it here, we are bound by these guidelines. And what I just read is the very first thing about the board's primary concern. And I don't see that there's been that much of a change from the last one to this one that even, that would make us change our mind about that, because we can't.
Okay, so again, it comes down to the massing, which is mostly the style of architecture for this property, for this building in this location.
From what I understand from our architects, that is correct. It is the massing.
Whether it's attached or not attached.
Correct.
What about the location of the garage? Because that is a big one with this lot and the trees not being in our control of what can be done with those, and definitely don't want to do anything to hurt them.
I personally don't mind. I mean, I think your addition with the garage, as far as putting the windows on there and making it look more like a stable, was probably not a bad idea for that area. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I'd have to leave it up to our architects, our professional architects on the board as far as the actual details of it. But from that standpoint, I thought that was a good addition.
And I would agree. I think it's, we talked actually about it the first time you presented, switching the plan. And I realized that you have a lot of private spaces on the other side of the building. And it would be very difficult to accomplish that. And actually, that side of the plan is worse than, you have a lot more fenestration on this side. You have more rhythm with the garage. I think it actually works better. And the wall helps, yes.
Now, with the massing, is the square footage an issue, or is it the massing of the roof? And again,
that's something you can do it. You can make it into something that's compatible with the. I mean,
I'm asking because I'm thinking that maybe a continuation for, because I've been here a couple times now, and I've seen frustration from everyone of just not knowing what to do, how to make it work or not. It is clearly coming across that the massing and the style of the roof, which is the style of the architecture, is the hang up. But some of these other things that I thought were the most important thing, like the garage and tying it specifically into the cottage by doing what we did on the garage side, was the more important areas.
Well, I wouldn't speak for the board, but myself, the front elevation did not change. It didn't change. You changed the material, and that's all. And that just did not answer the concerns that were expressed in the last meeting. Yeah, I wasn't present at the last meeting, but just looking at the minutes, it didn't change. And I think actually the garage side doesn't kind of go with the front elevation. I mean, they almost look like two different buildings. So,
There are 2 pages that I think are very important in the guidelines. And it's really basically 5.113. It's on page 106 and 107, and there are several areas in there that I think that would be helpful. Like, for instance, it talks about the size, scale, and proportion. The scale and proportions of an addition should be carefully planned so the form of the old building is visible and not overpowered. And there are ways that can be done. And so style, it does play a large part in it.
Okay.
And
I
as the
appreciate
chairman
that.
said, there is a way that you can do it to be compatible, and compatibility has to be the norm. That it has to be compatible. That is probably, if you come down to anything, that is the one thing that it never has been. At least this is only the second time you've come before me, because I'm new on the board. So I don't know about the other times, but I do know that unfortunately the changes that were made didn't make much of a difference to the original concerns that we had last month.
Okay.
But those on page 106 and 107, I think you'll find some very good
I very much
guidance.
appreciate you citing specific
And I do believe that
parts
what,
and giving specific feedback so that there is a clear direction forward.
compatibility is big. And that's why Ahmad was saying, it's just the little cottage, and Miss Morgan said, you have to start with the cottage. And the new building needs to be the mother of the cottage. It can be bigger, because mothers are bigger than children, yes, but it still needs to be compatible. And I think what Historic Aiken, they might be kind enough to give you the things that they wrote up about it, because I think they're key.
Okay.
They are the historic preservation professionals, if you will. So I think what they say is very helpful.
Okay. And then one more time again, whether it's attached or not attached, if we go along with what you're suggesting now, with it being compatible on all sides and the massing, that really isn't the big thing, because that's been brought up several times, whether it is or isn't.
Since it's going to be a building on the same property, it probably doesn't make that much of a difference. Unfortunately, as an addition, I think it gets, the incompatibility and the sizing difference is much more
more of an
visible.
issue.
And that's one of the things also that you look through here in 5.1.13 is that you don't want the sizing and the massing to be so visible. And it says here, for instance, ideally the addition should be inconspicuous to the passers-by. So it doesn't mean it can't be bigger. It's going to have to be bigger, but at any rate,
Okay.
compatibility.
So then is it possible for me to do a continuance one more time with taking both sides into effect and creating more of the compatibility that you were suggesting.
Well, we can vote on that if somebody makes the motion to continue. Ah, okay. Do you would withdraw your application and continue?
Yeah, just reapply.
If the applicants withdraw, they would need to reapply, but if you all continue the application with a motion, they would
Right.
not be required to reapply.
Okay.
With as much as it's been invested and the comments back and forth, and for you to be able to see changes that have taken place, I would like that.
I don't have a problem with that.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
may I input
Certainly.
something?
Yes.
All right, so just thinking this through, we understand this is a substantial investment. We clearly understand that. I think it might behoove, and I'm not recommending, okay, we're just talking about processes, that you come to a work session and then from the work session, get feedback, 5:30 work session, and then go about possibly the month after that being on the agenda for the meeting. Because if the changes are not reflected, you're still put in the same situation where you don't have time enough to make the changes before the 6:30 meeting. And this is not a recommendation, we're just talking about facts of the matter. But it does drag out your process.
I just think for purposes of today, there would need to be, need to be a motion to continue that is voted on, and then perhaps in consultation with Ms. Seymour, rescheduling it could be
And that-
taken up later.
That would achieve the same result.
Yeah, that would choose.
Mhm.
Thanks to our attorney here. Keeping it straight.
We'd like to have you on the record, so.
Again, talk to all design 35 Doherty Road. Is there, we want to apply properly. So if there's a purpose to say it's a new construction or it's an addition, somebody tell me what the heck to do.
You would have to be.
We have.
As long as it doesn't matter, then we don't need to bring it up again. That's-
Yeah, no, as long
Okay.
as the compatibility is.
There's a difference in looking at the staff notes, which are available online.
You
Did
guys
you-
answered the question, that's good.
No, but I just thought you might want to, there was a question, there was confusion about whether it was new structure, a duplex, therefore an addition, or a new building. It was decided to proceed, you all decided to proceed as a new building. That there are just sections that's what I wanted to make sure.
Well, I wanted to clarify it, so we understand.
Yeah, and that's probably why there were different sections that were,
There are consequences
last
to
time.
what you go for, is what
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, that's what I just,
Yeah, we can, we can make changes.
The addition is probably a little more restrictive, but it's not that much weight.
Yeah, because what I heard you say, Pat, is that even if it wasn't attached, it's right next to it, and
Well-
it still needs to be compatible.
it does, and I think and if you go to the sections that we quoted to you last month, when it was given to us as a new building, but it was right in it was, the old building was the cottage was still on the property. They're different, those are different sections, but the philosophy and the essence is the same. And I think that's what they're trying to mean, that it really basic, and that's what we're trying to say. Basically, there are certain things that flow from last month to this month, which are exactly the same. And that is the massing and the compatibility.
Well, what?
There is an important question I'd like to ask the board.
Yes.
Which is the size of this building too large to make it possible to be compatible. Because that's the biggest challenge, right?
Well, and
So
if
much
the
larger.
roof is the main thing, that would be easy to lower it because most of that roof in the front is not used. It's just attic space. The only usable space that they're using is above the garage. So reducing that isn't going to impact a whole lot of the bottom square footage. But now if the whole massing of the building is, now we're really getting into more restrictive things. But if the massing overall, yes, it is of that style, the chateau style, where it's the big roofs and it comes off as really big. So that could be reduced. And different placements and stuff, step backs and everything to where it looks like more additions in one building. I understand those things can happen. But if the square footage itself is a big issue, that we would definitely need to know.
Right, I'm just asking the board if that is that an issue? Because it can be interpreted that is the size of the building is not compatible. And
I
I
think
don't
that's an
believe-
architectural question that I believe that you thought that it could be done,
I do.
so
I just
I
wanted
guess
to
that's the answer.
get other people's opinion on that if they had one.
It is a consideration, but I strongly feel that it's possible, it's plausible, it can be done.
Thank you.
With the right resources, it will be done.
Thank you.
With the right design, it
Because if not, I was going to point out the document I have in here with all of the very high square footage buildings in the area.
Yes, ma'am. I completely understand. We
I appreciate you having that not be the major concern,
but
but the massing itself.
in all things considered, ma'am, as I stated before, would like to see this done. We understand that living conditions change over time. People want more space. Just living arrangements change over time. I'm not the 100-year-old gentleman up here, but we want to see this happen. But we're bound to our guidelines. We have to respect our guidelines, be fair and impartial. Also, I would want to take good note of the original application. If someone voted for a continuation or made a motion for a continuation, the actual application says type of work, existing structure, addition. So be careful. You talk about new construction, I'm by the book. I would say, go back to the application. You need a new application. But that's only me. That's my interpretation of it. I'm not representative of the board, just one vote.
So you're saying that if the application's continued, it's continued as an addition.
Uh,
If
from-
it's going to be a new building, it needs a new application.
Yeah, but where you're at now, speaking on facts, which what I have here,
Yes.
type of work, existing structure checked off, and addition checked off. So for me, myself, purist, fair, impartial, I would focus on 5.1, 5.1.13 addition begins on 106, 107, and stay away from 108 because that's demolition. So, but I'm convinced Rebecca.
Because that is not an option, demolishing the existing.
Oh, no. Don't even forget I said that. No. I'm quite sure, me trying to be jokey, but that's not funny. But I'm quite sure Rebecca will help you. I'm
Yeah.
quite sure we want to see you win. We want to see this thing happen. But you got to work with us too now. And my little personality shines through. I usually don't say much, but give and take, consideration, interpretation.
Compatibility.
And compatibility is my main word. Remember, lap siding, shingle siding, coloration, material selection. I might can not see the size of the building.
And I think also you'll get, if you go to the staff, they'll give you some good direction if we're going to continue this application, because we continued it last time and it got changed from a new building to an addition. And as one of our board members said, I think the addition part is a little bit more restrictive, but the essence is still the same. So I would think that you would be able to change that in a continuation, since it's been, since it was changed once, you're going back to what you originally had. So I don't
Well,
think that's.
originally it was a duplex, and then in the work session, it was brought up, wait, is it one? And I wasn't sure which one it is.
Yeah, I thought, I understood that it was the other, but
And then
Doesn't
I
matter.
talked with the clients, and we decided a new building would just make it easier. But after talking to zoning and all of that, it's actually going to be better as an addition, which is why I asked, is compatibility going to be really just as important with each one? And you confirmed, yes, whether it was attached or not attached, the significance of the existing structure is important.
Well said.
It's the mother.
Is there a motion then for continuance?
Ahmad's gonna make it.
Here it is, me again. All right, now, please, I always joke. I like to have fun, you know, be the young guy on the board, right? The personality. But please, I'm begging. Mother, birth, compatibility, 106, 107, Aiken O design guidelines. Please follow those. I make the motion to continue application number CERD 24-001073. Based on our findings of the improvements that should be made to this specific domicile or habitable structure. And you can coordinate with Rebecca to appear at a later date.
I second.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Motion moved.
Quite welcome.
Thank you. Next on the agenda.
Item A under new business, application number CERH 24-055. Applicants Gary and Gloria Frederick are requesting approval to conduct various alterations to the structure at 511 York Street Southeast, tax map parcel 121-09-26-007. The applicant proposes the following alterations. Remove a kitchen door and a single window on the left side of the front facade. The applicant proposes to replace the door and window with a new 5-foot wide by 4-foot high double window that will be centered on the wall. The proposed new white wood window will be 8/8 double hung with true divided lights. The existing windows on the structure are wood windows with simulated divided lights. Remove the front door and a window to the left of the front door located within the front facade. The front door is currently uncentered, located on the right side of the front facade. A new 5-foot 4-inch by 8-foot double wooden front door will be installed centered between the two center second-story windows. The new double doors will be stained wood, 6-paned beveled glass doors. The existing windows on the structure are wood windows with simulated divided lights. Construct a covered porch, front porch addition, with a semicircular brick staircase and brick landing pad. The porch will have a 14-foot by 12-foot brick foundation, which will match the foundation of the existing structure. Remove the existing door and double window located on the left facade of the driveway. These are proposed to be replaced by a new 6-foot 5-inch by 4-foot double window. These windows are 8/8 double hung white wood windows with true divided lights. This new window will be centered on the exterior wall and located within a new bathroom the applicants plan to install. The existing windows on the structure are wood windows with simulated divided lights. A set of double French doors is proposed to be installed on the second story of the rear facade, connecting to the primary bedroom. The proposed door will be painted Sherwin-Williams extra white to match the trim of the house. A black 82-inch by 36-inch Italian-style metal guardrail balcony is proposed to be constructed for this door. remove the existing aluminum storm windows, remove the vinyl siding to uncover the wooden clapboard siding beneath. Repair work will be conducted on the wooden clapboard siding where necessary. Repaint the structure. The brick and clapboard siding are proposed to be painted Sherwin-Williams Iceberg, while the trim is proposed to be painted Sherwin-Williams Extra White. The brick facade is currently unpainted. Replace the existing vinyl shutters with wood or composite shutters. The proposed new shutters will be painted Benjamin Moore after midnight. The applicant is proposing to complete this project in 3 phases. The above proposed work is included in Phase 1. Phases 2 and 3 are not currently proposed for approval. However, they can be seen in the submitted drawings as the applicant had drawings completed for the project as a whole. This is a non-contributing property located in the Historic Overlay District, specifically Historic District 2, and zoned RS15 single family. The Aiken County Assessor's website lists the construction date as 1956. This property does not have an Aiken Historic Resource Survey card. I believe the applicants are here.
Thank you, Rebecca. My name is Gary Frederick. This is my wife, Gloria Frederick. Our legal address is currently 511 York Street, Southeast Aiken, South Carolina. However, we are renting a condo at 402 Sand River Court, Aiken, South Carolina. Our additions are an attempt to restore this property back to the beauty and glory of the Aiken Historic District. We want to modernize it for today's lifestyle. We want to add some symmetry to the front of the house, and certainly our design and the process we went through. We've tried to take in design elements from other houses in the Aiken Historic District. We want to thank you for the opportunity to discuss our application, and certainly would, rather than rehash all of Rebecca's comments, I will say there is one alteration to our request here. The front porch size will be 14 by 7 feet wide, not the 14 by 12 feet wide that is discussed here. And as we discussed in the work session, the narrower porch is designed to keep the same 5'2" roof pitch that we have on the main house. And again, we are wanting to do this project in 3 phases, so we will come back for Phase 2 and Phase 3. Right now, Phase 1 is designed to get us into the house. So, and thank you, and we welcome any questions and comments.
Wasn't there one change about the size of the pillars? Was there something about that we mentioned in the work session?
Yes.
Well, the pillars haven't, the column sizes haven't been determined.
Correct. We do not have the exact size of the columns here. I would ask, if necessary, that we just do an administrative change with that size in here after hopefully approval.
Yeah, I just knew that was a concern. Rebecca could administratively do it.
Are we open for questions?
I don't have any questions. I mean, I think that any comments I had, I made in the work session, I can say them again. I just think it's what you've decided to do is a really good plan for that house.
Thank you.
And it seems to be very compatible, if you will, with the area.
Thank you for all the thought that you put into it.
Thank you. May I ask a question just about Phase 2 and Phase 3? Or is that better to do in a work session?
Hold off in a work session.
It depends on how long of a question you have.
Just very simply, again, we've tried to keep the symmetry. Rebecca had mentioned in a previous meeting that the front-facing garage may be an issue, although unfortunately it's not possible to do a side-facing garage and get the cars to be able to swing in there. We've seen pictures tonight already of the doors being more like the stable-style doors. That's what we would propose as well. But more than anything, just preliminarily, does that look like reasonable additions to this property as well.
I think it's
Everybody's
probably
looking
better
at you.
it's better to discuss that, yeah.
I think that's proper to be addressed at the work session.
Yeah.
That particular,
understand
because that's
completely.
not before the board today.
Correct, we understand
And
completely.
it's gonna be easier to be able to see how it's gonna fit in with your house once all of your
Yeah.
renovations are finished.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. I noticed a lot of the work is looks like it's still going to be brick siding.
Yes, sir.
Are you going to be able to match that brick?
Since we are asking to paint the brick, we are only trying to match size and shape.
Okay.
Because of some of the window movement, the demolition of a very small stoop up front, we will have some bricks from the initial construction that we can utilize to meet the needs that we have.
Okay. It's a big improvement.
Thank you.
Very nice. Is there a motion?
Well, we have a
Oh, public comment, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Linda Johnson, 515 Parkside Drive. I want to end my evening on a positive note.
Oh, good.
So I wanted to thank the applicants for doing things that they aren't required to do. They are revealing some siding, they are creating symmetry, which is more consistent with that neighborhood. The true divided light windows, that's a big deal. The porch, which will give more character to the building. So I want to thank them because it really is a big deal that someone's going above and beyond.
Thank you. Yes, and we would like to extend that thank you as well. It's really well done. Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to propose that on application CERH 24-055, that the board finds that the proposed modifications are in harmony with our guidelines on existing buildings found in the design review manual on colors, materials, beginning on page 50, also 53, page 66, and 70, as well as 72. We would like to note for the record that the porch size has changed from 1412 to 14.7. We still will need also a column size and approval to be done administratively at a later date.
I second that motion.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. So moved. Oh. I'm going to recuse myself as a board member and become an applicant.
And for the record, it's section 8-13-740, subsection 7C that does allow Chairman Hawks to represent herself before a board that she is a member of.
Okay.
I guess.
While the applicant comes forward, I guess I'm going to take over as vice chair, and we'll ask Rebecca to introduce the application, please.
Application TAX-027, applicants Faith and John Hawks request final certification of the special tax assessment for historic properties for renovations at 725 Grace Avenue Southeast. Tax map parcel 121-14-12-002. The DRB approved preliminary certification for the special tax assessment on June 1st, 2021. The applicants have completed their renovation and are now requesting approval for final certification. This is a contributing property in the Historic Overlay District, specifically Historic District 1. The Aiken Historic Resource Survey lists the construction date as circa 1930 to 1940, while the Aiken County Assessor's Office lists the construction date as 1917. The previous application explained that this property is thought to be the original manager's house and laundry building of the Pinkerton estate. The two buildings were linked in the 1950s to form a single residence. The board is tasked with determining whether the completed work meets the standards and verification that expenditures have been made in accordance with this section. That's section 38-8 D2.B.2. Site visits were held on May 29th, June 12th, and June 19th for board members to view the completed repairs and the preservation zone established by the board at the June 1st, 2021 meeting. A preservation zone for historically significant features in both the interior and exterior of the property may be established by the board at the time of preliminary certification. The established preservation zone for this property consists of all fireplaces and mantles. The applicant has provided receipts for a total of $77,269.23 worth of work that has been completed. The Aiken County Assessor's Office lists the 2020 total market value of the property as $336,259. The cost of the proposed rehabilitation work must satisfy the minimum expenditures for rehabilitation requirement of 20% of the fair market value of eligible buildings. The 20% minimum expenditure for this property equals $67,251.80. The board is reminded that in order to be counted towards the minimum expenditures for rehabilitation, work must relate to one or more of the following: improvements located on or within the designated buildings, additions to the historic buildings which make possible an efficient contemporary use while preserving those portions and features of the buildings that are significant to its historic, architectural, and cultural values. Cost associated with new structures or addition of the rentable habitable floor space not attributed to efficient contemporary use of space within an existing historic structure shall not be included in the calculation of eligible cost. Architectural and engineering services attributed to the design of the improvements and costs necessary to maintain the historic character or integrity of the designated buildings.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if anyone else was there when we did the initial walkthrough. I know I remember very well walking through your property and thinking, what a mess. and remembering looking at this one unit, and it was very obvious that it was two houses put together and not very well put together. And thinking, I don't know why you would take this project on. But I think we've all walked through the house now, and we've looked at the way you have corrected the problems when the houses were combined, and saved the notable features like the fireplaces and the mantles, and just made the building more usable, prolonging its life, and enhanced the historic what they tried to do in the 50s. You just enhanced that, and so I am so impressed. I don't know if you have any comments to add. You're welcome to come up and say what you'd like to, but
Please state your name and your address.
Faith Hawk, 725 Grace Avenue. I wish it cost $77,000 to do it. But those are the receipts that I could find. But yeah, well, I remember when you first came and said, everyone was saying, you paid what for this property?
Mm-hmm.
That was, and my husband saying, we're from the north. So, but thank you for your comments, and we love it, and we love Aiken. So we love the history of Aiken.
Well, you did an outstanding job, and I know that house very well as is my mic on?
yeah, it
Okay,
is.
thank you. I know that house very well because I knew the gal who owned it very well before she died, and I've been over there many, many, many times, and I have to tell you, what you've done to that property is outstanding.
Thank you.
Absolutely outstanding. And it brought so much of the character of the house that you could sort of kind of see and feel, but it really wasn't there. And you brought it all back.
Thank you so much.
Sir Vice Chairman, do I have permission to speak?
Absolutely.
Okay. Miss Faith. You know, the board is determined, and we're tasked with deciding whether the completed work meets the standards and verification that expenditures have been made in accordance with the section 38-D2B.2. And I gotta tell you, you didn't meet it. You exceeded it. And it's a very nice house. You saved all the important components. Make me want to tackle a little historic property. But one more joke, and I'll let you go, is that I just hope that one day that I could only show 77,000 some odd dollars of receipts, knowing I spent more. I could only prove it, but you knocked it out the park. Awesome job. And kudos to you and Mr. John.
Oh, thank you.
And Madam Chairman, that's not the chairman right this moment. It's beautiful beyond all of our memories of it. That you enhanced it, celebrated it, but you've also shared it, and that I'm really grateful for. The garden tour of it was amazing, and I wish you could have heard some of the comments as people walked and were in awe of the beauty that you brought back to one of Aiken's most unique places. So thank you.
You would think you were an architect. You did such a good job.
The house is definitely loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any more comments? All right, then I'll ask if anyone in the audience would like to speak in favor or against this application. Seeing none, I'll ask if there's a motion from the board on the special tax incentive.
Motion maker.
I got you. Okay, I got you.
On the normal template.
Yeah, it's not normal. Sir Vice Chairman, can I have permission to make a motion?
Please.
All right, on application for final tax approval for special tax assessment application number TAX 027, with concerning the historic overlay district, location of the address 725 Grace Avenue Southeast, also known as Hidden Stables. We find that it is in harmony with the final certification to be eligible for the tax incentive, and which states that a property must meet the following conditions. Conditions is A, the property has received preliminary certification, which it did. The minimum expenditures for rehabilitation were incurred and paid, which they were. And the completed rehabilitation receives approval from the DRB as being consistent with the plans approved by the DRB as part of the preliminary certification. With that matter, ma'am, we find that, or concludes that, the project met and exceeded those requirements for my findings.
We have a second. Any further discussion from the board? Then I'll call for a show of hands. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Okay. I have a motion to make when you're ready.
A motion for the executive. Yes.
Okay. Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the board enter into executive session to discuss matters covered by the attorney-client privilege as allowed by South Carolina Code 30-4-70A2.
I second that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor? None opposed? Executive session.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
We need a motion to come out of executive session. Well, we need to wait on.
We don't even have a quorum.
We do. Okay, then,
We make a motion to exit executive session.
Second.
all in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No action was taken in the executive session.
Decisions were made.
And no decisions were made.
Yeah, all right, now.
Make an amendment to that. Second.